Hello, my beautiful, wonderful students and anyone else who is watching this video. Today, the subject of this video is verbs. So here on my whiteboard, and it's a little bit hard to see maybe because of the sunlight coming in, but it's January in Wisconsin and I really need to see the sunlight when I can. I have a verb in Spanish. And this verb is comer, which means to eat. Here's my little illustration of someone who strangely has an entire drumstick on a fork, but we'll go with it. And in Spanish, this is sort of the common pattern of all verbs to end in R. Right? If you ever look up a verb in a dictionary or an online dictionary or paper, it doesn't matter, you're going to find that that verb ends in R. And actually, you're going to look and you'll be able to notice that it could end in AR, ER, or IR. And they all kind of behave the same way with a bit of a pattern, which is really nice because, you can start relying on the pattern. So we've got comer here, and it ends in ER, and this form of the verb is what's known as the infinitive, which just means it can refer to anyone, right? It doesn't have a person. It's not saying I do this, we do this, right? It's just to eat. It's the infinitive of a verb. In English, our infinitives have two words, right? We say to eat, right? In Spanish, instead of having that word to, it's kind of right here in the ending. Okay. And when we're going to use this verb, well, sometimes we'll need to say to eat, right? We might say, I like to eat. So in that case, the word comer is going to go in the sentence just as it is. But obviously, we also want to be able to say, I eat. And so this video today is going to specifically be all about me, right? Talking about what we do. I do this. And then there'll be another video, and I will try and remember to put a link into it that that shows you how to say other people do things like eat. So to say I do something in Spanish, for all but like a handful of the verbs, it's gonna end in in O, right? So yo is I, and when it's yo, it ends in O almost all the time. There's like 5 or 6 verbs that don't end in O, and all but one of them end in OY. So there's a few that have an O but don't always end in it, but there's only like 5 in the whole language. And odds are you've probably seen and used some of these. Words like yo voy or yo soy, right? I go, I am. Or yo estoy, I'm feeling, right? So you've probably seen some of these that end in OY. They are the minority in Spanish, right? There's also the one that doesn't have an O anywhere in it, and that's yo sé, which means I know, right? That's the one that totally just bucks the whole tradition. But today we're going to focus on all of the regular verbs. So those are another story for another day. In order to say I do an action, we're going to take off that ER ending. We got com. And we're going to add that O. Yo como. I eat. It's not incredibly challenging, right? So let's take a look at a few other verbs and see if we can get this pattern to make sense. Remember, the key is we have to take off this ER. If we leave it on, we're saying I eat or something like that, and it doesn't quite work. So if I were to give you a different verb, beber. It ends in ER, right? Just like comer does. And to say I drink, yo bebo. Yo bebo. I drink. And when you're speaking or writing, you don't have to say the word yo, right? Because yo is the only time these words end in O anyhow. And so people who invented Spanish were like, it's optional. But sometimes for people as they're learning, it's easier to say it so you can focus on what you're thinking. So it's not wrong to have it, but it's more common in the Spanish-speaking world to actually not bother saying it, right? I mean, why say it if you don't need it, right? Let's try a different verb, and I'm going to break this pattern just slightly because I've got comer, to eat, which has an ER, and beber, to drink, which has an ER. And I'm going to put in, it's a longer word, compartir. Compartir means to share, right? And so this ends in IR now, but no worries. The same pattern holds up, right? Yo comparto. Yo comparto. Right? So I mentioned that there were 3 groups, right? ER, IR, and the third one ends in AR. And so let's go with everybody's favorite example verb, hablar, right? To speak. Hablar is to speak. And so I'm going to drop this AR and I'm going to say yo hablo. All right. This list has a bunch of different verbs on it, and some of them are really pretty uncommon, especially in beginning Spanish classes, levels 1, 2, etc. But why not play around with some fun vocabulary while we're also playing around with saying we do things? So, if you take a look here at vivir, to live, comprar, to buy, estornudar, to sneeze, disfrutar, leer, and cut off kind of at the bottom here because I wrote too big is usar, to use. So take out a piece of paper and go ahead and pause the video if you need a little bit more time. Take a moment and try your hand at doing this. See if you can write down what these would be. How do you say I live, I buy, I sneeze, I enjoy, I read, and I use? Okay, now I told you to pause the video. So if you didn't and you didn't have time to do this, you're cheating yourself out of some practice. But here we go. Here's how we say this in Spanish. So vivir, remember, I'm going to drop the last part of it, the ending, the IR, right? The word to live. And I'm going to say I live as soon as I find a colored marker that works. Here we go. Yo vivo. Yo vivo. Right? I live. Yo vivo in Wisconsin. Okay. Comprar. To buy. Yo compro. Right? We take off that AR. We've taken off the IR. We've got to take that off, right? Because that IR means to. And when I say I buy, I don't need the word to, right? I buy? Nah, that's weird. Estornudar, to sneeze. Again, we're going to take off that AR. And I would say, yo, estornudo, right? Yo estornudo 2 veces, right? I always sneeze twice. Right? Okay, disfrutar, to enjoy. Again, we're going to lose that AR. We've got disfrut. Yo disfruto. Right? I enjoy. Here we have leer, to read. We're going to lose that ER. I know it looks intimidating because there's already an E and then it's ER, and it's exactly the same pattern. Yo leo. Yo leo. Yo leo muchos libros. And usar. Yo uso. Yo uso la computadora todos los días. Right. So hopefully this pattern doesn't seem too mind-blowing for you. It is a little different. It's a little more complex than the pattern in English because most of our verbs, all of the forms for who does them are the same. But check out the video on other verb forms that I hopefully remembered to link. And you can see how the pattern for other people works because we can't just always talk about ourselves all the time. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you soon.